I think everybody in this film does an amazing job conveying both their subtext, their text, communicating through their costumes, everything. I mean, you want to look at the best performance though in this movie, I would say you go to Dagobah. And I've wanted to hold off Dagobah for a while because this is my favorite part about this movie. Mark Hamill is incredible in this place. But you want to talk about the best performance in I would say almost every single film. I'm giving it to Frank Oz for Yoda.
Oh, 100%, man. The way Jim Henson's team made the puppet of Yoda, like I believe it was 7 different people involved in just moving him around. And so where you see Mark all hunched over, it's because the floor is so raised because they have a bunch of people underneath the floors mastering him. And it's, man, you look at the performance of Frank Oz being able to take just this green thing and giving him so much life. And it's not only is it life, it's he is the grand teacher. He's the master. And this little tiny man is able to make us believe that.
Yeah.
And it's when you first meet Yoda, I think is the most fun parts of Star Wars. But I think the thing that gets overlooked on that is when Luke is first introduced to Yoda, and Yoda doesn't introduce himself, and back to where we're talking about trials, that is, I think, Yoda's first trial for Luke. You know, Luke's off trying to rush somewhere, and Yoda just, wants to help out. He's trying to slow him down. Okay, yeah, let's get you some shelter. Oh, yeah, we'll do this. Let's get you some food. Take your time. And he's just like, in a fun way. But it's, again, when Luke gets all mad and tries to storm out of his house and hits his head, that's him failing yet another trial. I don't know, man. Dagobah's filled a lot of small things I think are overlooked.
Yeah. There's one thing when Yoda meets himself, it's not even that he's telling him to be patient. What he's doing is he's putting on an act. He puts on this completely different performance. He introduces himself as a nuisance, and he's aware that he's a nuisance. He comes in, and the first thing he does, he says, he tells Luke to put away his weapon. Luke says he's looking for someone. Yoda immediately flips on that.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
So he's the first thing he does is a criticism of his language, of the word choices that he just picked. It's like, you just found somebody. And then he comes down and he just says, oh, I can help you find this person. And then he just starts going through his stuff. And that is one of the funniest scenes in all of Star Wars.
Oh, man, I think it might be my favorite scene.
Mine too, because I'm just watching it. I had to go back and rewatch it because it's so a great performance. Like, you see how his eyes are, that moment we get the first close-up, his ears kind of move, a little squint, he's just so curious. What is this thing? It feels real. It genuinely feels real. I have it's one of those moments where the imagination that, when you give yourself over to this creature, it's probably the equivalent of Gollum in Lord of the Rings in terms of the greatest culmination of any artificial thing. With Gollum, it's CG. With Yoda, it's practical effects. And the integration between movement, like you say, when he's speaking, but it's all just to get a rise out of Luke, just to make him annoyed.
Man,
he starts throwing his stuff.
The part where he starts beating up R2 with a stick. That's amazing.
What's really cool, and then what I noticed is when he gets when the flashlight's grabbed, he goes for the stick, but he doesn't grab it in one go. He takes 4 times to get it because he's like, I'm an old man. I can't get this in one go. That's the people operating the puppet knowing Yoda couldn't just seamlessly go and kill him. And just, he has to go like this because that's who he is. Mm-hmm. And then once he goes to his hut, and again, he's still pushing Luke. He's like, get some food, get this thing. And Luke is getting more and more agitated. And I used to think that was a bad thing, that Luke was just so, suddenly just irritated. But then that's a perfect insight into his character. It's he is so not in control of his emotions at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then
very unrefined.
Then when Yoda says, I cannot teach him, complete shift.
The mood change in that scene is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. And I always thought that when he says, when Luke says, Ben, tell him I'm ready, and he bangs his head, I always thought that he laughs at him. Yoda doesn't laugh anymore. He's not like that.
Ben, tell him I'm ready. Ready, are you? What knows you ready? For 800 years have I trained Jedi. My own counsel will I keep on who is to be trained.
And everything that Yoda says, I can't even go into every single point because everything that he says is so true when it comes to the relationship of a teacher and a student. Like I remember going to theater school and all these wise teachers are giving me knowledge and telling me all these things and I'm nodding and I'm saying, yes, I understand. And at the end of the day, I just realized, like watching this movie makes me realize I don't think I understood a word that they were saying. And it's so fascinating how Yoda tracks almost everything that Luke does as a failure. When he's, asking questions, that's a failure. When he goes down into the cave with his weapons and
that's two failures. Don't go in the cave. Like, why are you going in there? And it's, don't bring your weapons. So I'm going to do both.
When he goes in, it's very fascinating that when Yoda says that is a place of like where the dark side lives. Like it's weird hearing that the dark side can live in a natural environment and that Yoda has surrounded himself in that. And when Luke goes to face off Vader, this is one of those moments where people say, you need high choreography to have a good lightsaber fight. 3 strikes on that Vader thing. That's one of the best lightsaber moments of all time. And it's always been weird to me because I always wondered, is Luke seeing this? Is this a vision that he's having? Is this like a setup, maybe there's a Darth Vader prop that Yoda has set up, face the ultimate evil,
No, it's I'm a firm believer it's definitely a Force vision.
Force vision, okay.
Yeah, I think he's seen a vision of himself on if he continues down this path, I think is the ultimate message behind that scene.
So like the minute he brings his weapons with him is an establishment that you're going down this path. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to take.
He wasn't ready. And he goes to try to face Vader, not ready, kills Vader, but destroys himself. And it's, similar thing in the movie. He goes off to face Vader against Yoda's wishes. He doesn't die because he jumps off that platform into the Great Pit after he's lost an arm. And it's exactly what happened in the cave scene. He just was able to escape with his life.
When Yoda is basically telling him all this stuff about the dark side, like the dark side is more seductive. It's, it's not as easy. It seems easier. It is easier. It is easier to go down to because it's aggression, it's passion, it's forcefulness, it's, this desire for action as opposed to really knowledge and patience and calm and understanding. That is the difference between the dark and the light. And there's almost this other idea of faith, having faith in the Force, not as a friend, like as Yoda says, and probably one of my favorite monologues of all time, when Yoda is talking to him about raising when Luke gets thrown off and the ship sinks, how Yoda tells him, you judge me by my size, you judge me when something is either too big or too small. Like, my ally is the Force. Like, it's not a friend, it's an ally. It's a power. You have this awareness of what the Force is to you as a Jedi, and you understand that it's overall power and how you communicate with it. And he doesn't go with one example. He goes with so many different things, and he just has this awareness about him.
Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Even between the land and the ship.
And this is a puppet. Like, it's so it's so amazing how you can just, again, communicating something through physical actions and choices. Like when he grabs Luke's skin with his hand. And then when he pulls the ship out, and it's an amazing moment. And then when Luke goes to him, it's like, I don't believe it. And then again.
That is why you fail.
It's just another moment of, why are you here with me? Why did you come here? Like, what are you racing after, boy? Like, you're here and you chose to come here. Your friends, as he believes, your friends are fine. Like, you're here for a reason and you're just jumping to something. And then when Luke I love the element of like how you can actually see the future and how the future is feeling. Like, again, I can't unpack all that. That's such a brilliant point. But the idea that you tap into the future when you're so connected with the Force, and even Yoda can't see what happens because it's not a result that you're seeing. What it is just a possibility, or you're seeing a destination. It's just rich. Like, that world and that time, those moments in this film are so rich with insight and personal, like character growth, but also just objectively some of the greatest insight into both faith and I don't know, greater powers around you, the surrounding environment. It's amazing.
Oh no, it's and I was rewatching this, like, and rewatching these movies in order to do these like series with you. It's really cool because I've been like watching them with more. I want to take more out of it. It's like, okay, let's have more talking points. Like teach me. When we got to this scene where, like, Yoda describes the Force, how it's energy that binds us, it penetrates us, it's through us, and going off, man, I started getting goosebumps again. I'm just like, it's how beautifully written it was, but yet it's so believable coming from a 3-foot green thing.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible.
Yeah. There's the moments that give me the goosebumps are the entire time they're on Dagobah. And surprisingly, going to when Luke eventually does go to challenge Vader, I don't get goosebumps. I cry. I get scared. I get horrified again, but it's a different kind of horror. It's a realization of like, how is this possible? Where Vader reveals to Luke that he's his father. In that lightsaber fight too, just briefly, that's a really well done fight, I think. How you almost can tell that Vader is just toying with Luke the entire time.
Oh man, I believe it's the second time like their sabers cross, because at the start of this fight, like Vader's one-handing it the whole time.
There's one time he holds it with two hands to get
it.
his stance, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. But then again, it's the second strike of that fight. He one-handed just pushes down Luke, just showing how unprepared he is.
Yeah.
And yet, no matter how many times he's unprepared in this fight, and Vader doesn't do anything about it, he keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's, I think my favorite part of the fight is when it's near in the end, Luke still has both hands, and Vader stops, and he's like, "You're beaten." Kind of like, okay, like he's like, "I have shown my dominance," and he almost like, it's not pity or mercy, but he stops. The only reason Luke lost his hand was because he dove into his anger and went at him again. So Vader cuts it off to stop it.
Yeah.
It's showing his failures consistently again.
Yeah. And it's also, again, showing more insight into how the Force and how both sides work, like both the dark side and the light side, because it's amazing too with the structure in the fight, because like Luke is going two-handed, but every time he goes one-handed, he falls down. Like he loses his lightsaber by the carbonite chamber, and like he fumbles around. And he does show that he has some capabilities.
Don't forget he falls in the carbonite chamber.
Yeah, then he jumps out of it, which is like, oh, okay, cool. You did that. What are you going to do now?
Even though everybody's yelling at me it's a trap, I still fell in.
Yeah. and then but the whole thing, when Vader is talking to Luke, this is what I love. And this is something I will definitely need to dive down into with Return, because it's even better there, where Vader is telling Luke, you've controlled your fear. Now release your anger. It's like he doesn't have control of anything in this situation, but you're convincing him that he does. You're using one of the things that I think is so powerful with the dark side is it's not overly powerful, more powerful than the light side, I think, but it's much more seductive. There's this temptation. It's very pleasing
It's
to
a lot more
hear.
appealing, man.
Yeah, because when you hear that you're in control of something, you feel like, yeah, I do. When Yoda is the complete opposite. When he's telling him, you're failing. This is a failure. You're not doing this. You're too reckless. Like, you are reckless. You will be afraid. This is all this stuff. Like, he's making him feel like the lowest form of person. And he's the last Jedi, really, that can really be alive. And yet he's still telling him, no, I'm not going to praise you. I'm not going to look at you as this great shining beacon. He even says, like, when in one moment I'd like to talk about later, where he mentions there is another, like, Luke is nothing special at this point. So don't treat him like he's something special. But when Vader comes in, he's like, you controlled your fear. Release your anger. You can kill the Emperor. We can rule the galaxy together. He's saying all these things to make him feel all the better, which is honestly kind of amazing. Like, which makes it all the more tempting when he says, I am your father. It's so interesting to hear that the person who is supporting you the most is your father. The person who's giving you the most love, the most attention is your father. And he's the most just evil person in the galaxy. And we see that because, like we said, in A New Hope, he proved that he was a scary person. Now he is much more evil because he tortures Han for no reason. He kills his own guys. He will manipulate his son when he's like trying to learn, who he is. And he's
feeding him what he wants to hear.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I realized, like, Luke really doesn't have much of a reason to be a Jedi except because of his family. It is because of his father that he wants to be a Jedi. And now he realizes that his father is the ultimate Dark Lord of the universe. Like, that, again, has to have some kind of psychological destruction.
Oh, man, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it's...
The part that always bugged me a little bit, though, was when all that was said and done, Luke's back on the Falcon, and they're, like, fleeing Cloud City. Man, when they go past Vader's ship, and Vader, like, it's like, Luke. And Luke just pipes up, oh, Father. It's like, ugh.
Luke, Father. Son, come with me. Ben, why didn't you tell me?
With this movie, there are little touches of things that I just don't think are great. And that is when he does say Father, because that has not been his relationship with Vader. He should be just quiet when he just says that.
Oh,
and then he
completely agree. I think it would have been way better.
Luke, son, come with me. Ben, why didn't you tell me?
But this movie also does support something that I've had problems with, which is kind of the sibling relationship. It goes more into the later film. But in this movie, I do like how with Leia and Landau, with their whole thing of, like, being able to gain, stop the Empire, like, get away from the Empire and get back onto the Falcon. I do like how there is a forced connection between the two of them. This movie does help support a lot of things that I think, have both been established, and other things that don't necessarily work so well. And I think that that's what makes this movie an essential film. Like, you can say, you got to watch Star Wars. It's like, why? It's like, okay, watch A New Hope, but you don't get to get out of this trilogy or this whole franchise until you see Empire.
It's man, people who've never seen Star Wars, which is crazy how many people there really is that have not seen it. It's hard to just tell them to watch a single movie, because, like, if you were to walk in and watch Empire Strikes Back, like, yeah, it's a fun action movie. Who the hell are all these people and why are they doing it? There's no motivation for anything. And but you can't, just left hanging off of like, the end of this one or the end of A New Hope. No. It's that's a hard one where it's, if you're going, even the new ones or even the prequels, I find they're all the trilogy is just one long movie. It's hard to just pinpoint one.
Yeah, you have to take in, because new movies, and this is, again, establishment to the brilliance of the writing of this film, or the structure of this franchise, is that every single film does offer a new element to be explored and to be discussed. And I think it's such a brilliant, addition to the point where, like I say, it's hard to talk about point by point by point. Because like even now, I think back to the same thing that's going on with Han and Leia and their whole kerfuffle that they're going through. And the moment where they're even trying to say, like Landau says, you can still save Han. So there's a chance, maybe there will be something good. And then they just watch him go away, watch him fly off. And I'm just like, we are, and this is the brilliance of what Lucas said. It's like he talked about in an interview on the VHS version of this film. It's like a play. This is Act 2. So it's the darkest point. By Act 2, you want the darkest, your characters to be completely enveloped in the darkest moments that they can possibly be. Because they need to come from something to rise up from. And I think that was handled phenomenally well in this movie. I can't think of anything in terms of events, in terms of structure, in terms of places that are bad. There's little like blips.
No, exactly. It's that like I said earlier, that part where he just flat out calls him father. That's, for me, that's the low point of the movie. It's one word. I
don't know. I don't know about you, Brian. Like, do you think there's anything else with this film that you need to talk about? Because
this movie, it's because even to discuss it, it's hard to do without jumping into Jedi. Yeah, it's just you want more.
Thank you so much for talking about this, and thanks for taking a lead on a lot of this, because definitely I was struggling beforehand to figure out how to approach
Oh, no worries,
this.
man. It's always a good time. It's always a good topic. So
absolutely. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to look for Brian and help support him, if you're in the Edmonton area, check out Boocha.ca. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Boocha.ca. It's amazing. Check out the rest of the series as it comes out. Thank you guys so much. And as always, take care.